Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have a yellow rain warning in force for Northern Ireland today. We do have various wind warnings over the next couple of days as well, so we do go quite unsettled during this week with a change of air mass, with colder air spreading in from the west, and nothing crazy cold of course, but cooler than we've had recently where we've had southerly winds, and we're going to see the jet stream really power up and go quite unsettled. Of course, yellow warnings for wind in force. We'll have a look at the UKV, of course, look at those temperatures and the precipitation, and then we'll have a look at the longer range, the GFS, GEM, ECWF, and the ensembles. Now, of course, as we have alluded to in the last few winter look-aheads, blocking is expected during the middle to second half of November. That is high pressure towards northern latitudes, and it could turn us colder. Now, we have been chopping and changing between it, but today the GFS goes for extensive northern blocking through into the middle of November. It doesn't produce anything particularly cold, but it produces a major block which could develop into something colder in the next few weeks. So very interesting seeing that today. I have said over the past few winter look-aheads we are expecting to see these sort of charts appearing, and we have seen them appear today. So have a look at that and look what the GM and the ECMWF also suggest over the next 10 days or so. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if we do start on the live radar, you can see a weather front is moving in from the west at the moment. It is really quite unsettled, and we've got a yellow warning for rain across Northern Ireland. Quite a lot of relief rainfall there, where the precipitation does pick up over the higher ground in the west as it does progress eastwards. But yeah, generally very, very unsettled, and yeah, does not look particularly great out there. It will spread eastwards over the course of the afternoon and the evening, but it should be fairly dry for most in central and eastern areas, at least probably until sunset this evening. Of course, it is Halloween, so if you are out trick-or-treating this evening, you're not going to want to be under this rain band, but unfortunately it does look like it will move eastwards. We'll have a look at the UKV to look at the timings in a minute, but hopefully many areas it does hold off, but unfortunately wherever it does sit, we'll see some miserable conditions this evening. If we do put on the temperatures around midday, again, it's going to be turning cooler, but for the time being, those temperatures are not too bad. A lot of yellows here, but some blues mixing into parts of Ireland quite significantly there. So cooler air mass pushing in ahead of slightly warmer air still across parts of England and Wales and parts of Scotland. And of course, that is going to be swept away. Temperatures are going to be going from high teens, low 20s that we saw on the weekend, down to low teens, maybe even high single digits come the end of this week, especially under thicker cloud and rain. If we do have a look at the weather warnings, you can see we have a yellow rain warning in force until 10 p.m. this evening. Heavy rain likely to bring some flooding and impacts to travel. Again, look at the impact. The further details, you can see a band of rain will move east across Northern Ireland during Monday, possibly becoming slow moving during the afternoon and evening. Some heavy rain is expected at times, with 10 to 20 millimetres of rain falling fairly widely. Whilst a few places may receive around 40 millimetres, there is uncertainty in the extent of the larger rainfall totals, but given that the ground is already saturated after recent heavy rain, even the lower totals may produce some flooding. So again, not ridiculous amounts of rain, but considering the ground is so saturated, it could be quite impactful. You can see it's high likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix, so yeah, high chance of seeing a lot of rain, but its impacts are less so, but still worthy of a yellow warning. Tomorrow we do have a yellow wind warning for southern and southeastern coasts from tonight at midnight until 8 a.m. Strong winds will develop overnight, bringing the risk of disruption. Again, a small area of low pressure, named Storm Claudio by Meteo France, will move eastwards through the English Channel, bringing a spell of strong to gale force winds, while the strongest winds are expected over the Channel Islands and northern France. Parts of southern England may see gales for a time overnight. Southerly winds will strengthen before veering westerly and are expected to gust at 50 to 60 miles per hour, especially over coastal areas with a risk of ice age coastal gust to 70 miles per hour. So a named storm across parts of France, but of course we're not going to clickbait it because it's not actually going to be impacting the UK that much. It's going to be mostly northern France, but still could see 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts, maybe 70. So high end of the likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. And of course we have a wind warning for Wednesday as well. A spell of windy weather is expected to affect Irish sea coasts on Wednesday from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Again, looking at the further details, a spell of very strong southerly or southwesterly winds will affect some western coastal areas during Wednesday. Gusts of 55 to 65 miles per hour are expected, especially in exposed coastal locations, with some sudden strong gusts of wind possible at times. Some further heavy rain is also likely during Wednesday, especially across parts of southwest Scotland, Cumbria and western Wales. Again, high likelihood at the lower end of the impact matrix. If you go over to the UKV now and see what that's showing over the next 5 days, you can see over the course of this afternoon that rain will slowly progress eastwards and could become more extensive for some areas of rain breaking out in front of it. So if you are out early trick-or-treating, hopefully it could stay dry for a time before heavy rain does push in. Maybe a few areas escaping the rain, but extensive rainfall around today. And over the course of this evening, you can see how we see that low pressure system in the English Channel that's giving the very strong winds on its southern flank to northern France and giving the precipitation to parts of England. As we head through Tuesday, eventually that rain does clear through the early hours and into Tuesday afternoon. You can see the rain does slowly clear, but we still see showers around and maybe some heavy, blustery, thundery showers perhaps in the south through Tuesday afternoon and into Wednesday. A bit of snow potentially over the northern hills across Scotland. Not too unexpected this time of year, but cooler air mass moving in is pretty inevitable, and through Wednesday more heavy rain pushing in, and with that we've got those strong gusty winds, a bit of a squall line potentially moving through southern England there through Wednesday, so very lively weather over the next few days. We're a little bit of a frontal wave there. You see the weather front is stationary, and then we see another push of moisture, so some very heavy rain through Wednesday into Thursday along the south and southeast. Could be rain warnings issued for that, for eventually it does clear through and we just remain very unsettled with more big rain bands moving in. Now the reason for this all is because we are transitioning air masses. We're still going to see the warmer air masses, but we're also going to see colder air masses, and those air mass collisions are going to reduce these low pressures, the heavy rain and the winds. You can see we're still in a relatively warm air mass, but it's getting swept away over the course of today, and we're all going to be going into a fresher air mass come tomorrow, which is going to be sort of flip-flopping between cooler and slightly milder air masses throughout this week. And if we do have a look at the wind gusts as well, you can see over the course of this afternoon into the evening, you can see 70, 80 miles per hour across the far south into parts of northern France, maybe the far southeast seeing sort of 50, 60, 70 maybe. So you can see there very strong localised winds across northern France, less so across southern England, but still possible. It does eventually clear away that named storm, and then as we head into Wednesday as well, you can see that we do have some very strong wind gusts in the Irish Sea. Again, could be named this system, but not particularly strong, at least for autumnal systems. We saw 80, 90 miles per hour. We may see something named, but we'll have to wait and see for Wednesday, for eventually things go a little bit less in terms of wind gusts. If you look at the max temperatures, again, you can see today is still relatively mild in the far east, 16, maybe 17 degrees, but further westwards, across the Republic of Ireland, 9 or 10 degrees. But much cooler air will be sweeping through widely tomorrow, tomorrow afternoon, touching maybe 14, 15 in the far east. But more widely, low teens, maybe high single digits, and that's similar as we head into Wednesday. Overnight temperatures in the mid-single digits, and into the afternoon temperatures potentially touching on 13, 14, struggling with stronger winds, more cloud and rain. It will feel even cooler than that. And of course, as we head into Thursday, those temperatures in the afternoon, maybe high single digits, really cool through Thursday. We have that frontal wave sat in the south and the east, meaning it's going to be really chilly, a good 12, 13 degrees cooler than it was on Saturday, where we saw 22 degrees in London. So yeah, really, really chilly conditions coming later this week, at least compared to what we have at the moment. Again, that's only probably slightly below average this time of year, but compared to what we've had recently, it is going to feel chilly. And of course, into Friday as well, we can see those temperatures dip as low as sort of 9, 10, 11 degrees once again. So yeah, very unsettled week coming, quite chilly as well, and yeah, not looking particularly nice if you've got any plans, especially tonight for Halloween. There will be some areas that avoid the rain, but I would be surprised if there's anywhere that completely avoids the rain. maybe some areas in the far north and the east, but a lot of areas are going to see precipitation, of course, of the evening. Could be quite heavy. So unfortunately, we have had some great weather recently, especially warmer, dry conditions. Yes, there's been plenty of showers and thunderstorms around, but we've had our fair share of warmer, dry weather through October. Looks like it's going to end, though, on a very unsettled note, and start November on a very unsettled note. Yeah, it does not look particularly good for trick-or-treating tonight, unfortunately. If we do go to the GFS now and have a look at what it's showing over the next couple of weeks, of course, as I said at the start of the video, we were expecting extensive blocking. Now you can see the small low pressure system in the far south over the course of this evening. That's that named storm by Meteo France, and then eventually you can see we go more westerly, very unsettled westerly. And as we head into next weekend, you can see the higher pressure up towards Iceland and Greenland. Now again, it's not too extensive, but it shifts the jet stream a few hundred miles further southwards, and it means low pressures are sat more over the top of us. Now eventually, watch what happens at day 10. Day 10 and beyond, that is. You can see low pressure runs in, and look at that yellow blob of higher pressure towards Greenland and Scandinavia. Now, of course, I've alluded to that blocking can bring up southerly winds at times, and this blocking pattern does. But if we see this continue through the middle of November, I wouldn't be surprised to see really cold easterlies pushing in at a time. Again, look at the upper air temperatures. Cold air is gathering towards Scandinavia and Eastern Europe. Again, it's not ridiculously cold, but it would be turning increasingly colder. But milder air is coming for the UK at the moment. So there's not producing anything majorly cold, but the pattern is extremely interesting, and it's something we have alluded to in the winter look-aheads, and perhaps we're seeing the first signs of this. As we saw in the winter look-ahead yesterday, the Eastern WF weekly anomalies were suggesting that week in the middle of November is the first week where that real blocking pattern does start to pick up. So perhaps we're seeing that signal from the GFS today as well. But yeah, extensive blocking, and you can look at the temperature deviations that we're going to be pushing very cold air out of the Arctic and see into northeast Canada, potentially into parts of Eastern Europe, cold air plunging out and warmer air replacing it across Greenland, reinforcing that block. So as I said, we'll have to see exactly what happens. For the time being, extensive blocking showing from the GFS beyond day 10 to day 15 today, and yeah, could be seeing some very interesting signs for the second half of November. Of course, it is always difficult to get cold weather in November, but it could be coming with this sort of pattern, at least below average conditions, with the risk of snow and winteriness in the north. So as I said, we'll have to see what happens, but for the time being, we just got to keep an eye on these blocking patterns because they are appearing now, and we've got to see if it doesn't continue to appear over the next few days. Now, if you compare it to the GEM, see what that is showing over the next 10 days. Again, westerly flow at the moment, very unsettled conditions. Blocking patterns starting to appear to our north, some greens there. And right at day 10, we do have a bit of higher pressure towards Greenland and Iceland. Again, nothing major, but disrupting the flow slightly. And you can see we do have cold air trying to get pushed out of the Arctic. Now, again, it's not producing anything majorly cold yet, but if we saw that high pressure reinforce itself towards Greenland, a similar pattern, then the GFS develops, and then we could go cold with this route. So again, GM not showing anything majorly cold, but is poised at day 10 with higher pressure towards Greenland, a northerly wind, cold air plunging into Scandinavia and potentially Eastern Europe, could be setting us up for some cold weather towards the second half of November. Again, it is speculative, but we're seeing it on these longer range models today, and of course we've been seeing it in the winter look-aheads, and a lot of the climate drivers have been suggesting there is an above average chance of at least a colder snaps or a colder start to winter. So we'll have to see, as I said. If we do finish by having a look at the ECMWF, again a westerly flow at the moment, looking very unsettled. And again, as we head towards day 10, a bit of blocking up towards Greenland, but it doesn't come to much. So Eastern WF not really going for much today, more of a flat westerly. So you can see still there are runs going for a flat westerly. This would be very unsettled and actually quite mild with warm pushes of air coming in. So we'll have to see, but for the time being, still a bit of a split, but we're keeping a very close eye on those blocking charts over the next few days, the next couple of weeks. If you finish the video by having a look at the ensembles, you can see generally around average, maybe slightly above, slightly below average at times, but it's going to remain fairly unsettled. You can see precipitation is appearing in sort of clusters now, so that's when low pressure systems move through. So there are going to be days where it's drier, especially in the south and the east, but there are days where it's going to be very unsettled over the next couple of weeks as well. Again, you see that GFS operation run going very warm, and you see it does not tell the full picture. That's got extensive blocking and could be going very cold in the second half of the month. So that's why you always have to take these Ensemble member charts with a pinch of salt, because they could be setting up a very interesting pattern, something that could completely reverse their upper air temperatures. But at the moment, you can see we are very much in and around average over the next couple of weeks. If you compare it to the ECMWF ensembles, again, they're not fully loaded today, but you can see that's the next 9 days generally around average. And if you go to the midday run, again, generally around average as well. So got to see what happens over the next couple of weeks, but it looks very average over the next week or two. Quite a lot of precipitation, quite chilly as well, especially compared to normal, or compared to recently, sorry. Staying unsettled, as I said, and yeah, could be trending cooler towards the second half of the month, or even colder with that extensive blocking that we're seeing potentially appearing on not only our winter look aheads, but now more pronounced on our daily videos with the GFS and the GEM, or definitely the GFS, a little bit the GEM today. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.